Hey guys, and welcome to the channel. If you haven't already, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much. I've got with me Mush. How you doing, mate?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. We're going to go through the Canelo versus Callum Smith fight last night. Um, where do we start? Okay, well, obviously, let's start with the scorecards, I think. So, Canelo beat Callum Smith by unanimous decision, 119, 109 twice on two of the judges' scorecards and 117, 111 to capture the WBA, WBC, and Ring Magazine super middleweight titles. So now officially a four-weight world champion because WBA regular doesn't count against Rocky Fielding. Sorry, but now he can officially
Definitely.
claim it. So that's fair enough.
It was
Okay,
inevitable, but yeah.
yeah, it was inevitable. What did you think? Just kind of very briefly on the performance. Were you a bit surprised that he won so easily?
I wasn't surprised. No. Um, I just thought we'd see more from Callum Smith. If I'm completely honest. Yeah, I gave him probably 2 rounds at a
Mm.
push. Um, but yeah, like from the beginning, I think the most obvious choice for the fight was probably Canelo to win on points, and then um, by chance Smith would, either go points or stop him. But it wasn't from the get go. You could just tell how the fight was going to go. And I don't.
Yeah,
I think the thing that went against Smith the most was that you couldn't really see his game plan change at all. He
yeah, I
would just try
thought,
to do the
yeah,
same thing through the
yeah,
whole
for
fight.
sure. I think he struggled, didn't he, to adapt, I think. Whereas you have the elite fighters, they kind of adapt if something's
Yeah,
not working, but I didn't really see. I think he's a very, very solid fighter, and I think he does what he does well, but he just doesn't have that kind of variation. And also, something I thought was quite interesting is I didn't feel like, even though actually when you look at the stats, he threw quite a lot, I didn't think he threw his jab very effectively. And
yeah,
before the fight, everyone was saying if he's going to win this, he needs to really kind of stamp authority with his jab and also get Canelo's respect by hitting him flush with power. And he did do that a few times, but Canelo just kind of ate it and was like, whatever, and didn't really seem to bother him at all. Like the first round was basically just a feel out round. So
yeah.
I think, yeah, you can
That's
maybe,
that's one of the ones that I gave to Callum Smith because
yeah,
I thought he was just like he shaded it.
yeah, it was a little bit busier, maybe potentially edged it, but I think one of the other rounds. But yeah, I think for me, either one or two rounds, I think max, I'd give it to him. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, it was weird though because obviously Cam Smith has in the past. Obviously, we know he's got power at this level at super middleweight, but it just didn't look like Canelo respected his power at all. Were you really surprised that he just kept on coming forward? Because obviously we know that he's faced Golovkin, but
yeah,
this is obviously a one way up, and I think Callum Smith does have pretty good power. I don't think he's got elite power, but you would have thought once he hit Canelo with a couple of those kind of counter left hooks or right hands, he would think, okay, don't want to engage. But he almost was not bothered at all. And he just kept coming forward.
yeah. Because I think the thing is, you have to realize that Canelo's already fought Triple G and Kovalev. Like Kovalev is over the hill, but he still fought both of them, and they arguably punch harder than Callum Smith. So um, as soon as he realized that Smith wasn't going to hurt him like massively, I think he just was going to run the fight how he wanted to.
Yeah, and I think one thing that Callum Smith didn't do, which I think Joe Calzaghe was saying he was doing some work for DAZN. I think um, he basically said, and I thought this actually when I was watching it before he said it was Callum Smith didn't really use a double jab, and normally when you
Yeah,
are at that kind of, I guess
when
a
it's tall
heavyweight,
man, when it's tall man versus small man, I think double jab is very effective.
yeah, 100%. And at heavyweight, you don't see it as much, but as you go down the weight classes, you
Yeah,
do
you see it a
see
lot.
that at like middleweight, super middleweight, especially if
It's
you've
because the
got,
hands, because like the smaller fighters tend to have like faster hands, so
yeah, exactly.
you can use it
So
more.
you need to kind of keep them at range and establish distance. But for me, it almost was like Cam Smith wanted to fight on the inside, or maybe it wasn't just that. Maybe he just wasn't confident
Yeah,
fighting at long
that's
range.
one thing. That's one thing. He probably like didn't let his shots go as much as he could have because there's always the fear factor that Canelo can his because his head movement is unreal. So
Yeah,
Yeah, I think he could have been a bit nervous because remember, I don't think Callum Smith has had this big a fight before. I think his biggest
no,
fight has been George Groves, so
yeah, yeah,
and it's
100%.
nothing compared to a Canelo fight.
Yeah, this is obviously that Groves fight dwarfs. It's a dwarf in comparison to this Canelo fight, I think, and obviously he was lucky in a way that there wasn't loads of media there because he's quite quiet, so it kind of
Yeah,
suited him beforehand.
yeah,
But I think when he was in the ring, he would have realised the magnitude of the event. I think, and I I don't know whether he was overawed by it. I just think it was a weird one because one thing that I thought he did quite well early doors was he didn't just fight as a tall fighter or kind of crouched to Canelo's
yeah.
height.
He changed his height up quite a bit.
Yeah,
He
he
did that
changed
throughout
it.
the fight. To be fair, he
Yeah, he
kept going.
did. Yeah, but it just didn't really cause any problems. And
No,
I think the issue with him as well is because he is that kind of classic fighter, that classic style in a way. It's something that Canelo would have seen like hundreds and hundreds of times. And one thing that I think was a little bit not worrying, but I think, as you said, he was quite tentative. Is he kept on throwing whilst his weight was back, so he was always
yeah,
throwing on the back foot. So even if he was able to land flush, it wouldn't have mattered as much because he was almost
Canelo
taking.
wouldn't have felt it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he was taking some of the sting out of it. It was only really towards the back end of the fight, but by that point it was too late, and Canelo just
fight
didn't
was
really
done.
care. Yeah, and that he started to plant his feet and start throwing. But he was very tentative, and he was throwing jabs off the back foot and kind of seeing whether he could get in that way. But it was just a really, really weird. He's strange because he likes fighting in the inside, even though he's tall. But
Yeah,
fighting in
it's
the
strange,
inside,
strange combination, especially when
yeah.
you're fighting against Canelo. It's what,
I mean, Canelo's
half a
that's his
foot
forte,
difference?
right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's like
Canelo's
half a foot
forte is
difference.
in the inside, isn't it? So, yeah, because Canelo's what 5'9" and Callum Smith's 6'3". So I just think he was trying to fight in the pocket and at mid range, and that's just not that's just a recipe for disaster. And I think the one thing I can say is Callum Smith's chin's very good because he took a lot of punishment.
Unbelievable.
Ridiculous. I think he's never been dropped,
No,
so you can see why. And
I
what do you
think
think
that was his small victory for the day,
of?
making it 12 rounds.
I think in the 12th round he started looking up at the clock, and I was like, "That's
Yeah,
not
he did
good."
that quite a
That
few times.
yeah, I was like, "That shows that he knows he's lost, and he also doesn't have a chance. He doesn't think he can knock him out because I think he obviously must have hit him with some big shots, and it wasn't doing anything. He was like, he was almost resigned to the fact that he was going to lose it. But yeah, what do you think of Canelo's head and upper body movement? Because I thought every fight we
Good.
see, it kind of seems to improve.
Yeah,
And one stat that I had was quite interesting was that after I think it was only round 4 actually, but Cam Smith had only landed like 90% of his punches and Canelo 45%. And then I think throughout
the
each
thing is,
round it was similar. But you know what
I was
was really
looking at.
interesting is that he landed. So this is what if you think of it, I don't look too much into punch stats, but one thing that was quite interesting was Smith had landed, I think more. He'd landed something like 180 punches in one of the rounds, and Canelo had only landed, I think it was like 60. So
Yeah,
it was about a third of Callum Smith's punches, but the percentage of punches it was that landed was actually more, and also the number of punches landed was more. So it was just showing that he was selective, but they were quality punches thrown by
yeah,
Canelo. Whereas obviously Callum Smith was just trying to throw for the sake of it almost.
just volume. Yeah, I don't know those. I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like those punch stats were like out by quite a bit.
They were rigged.
I, not rigged, but it's just like I don't know. They felt too inaccurate.
Yeah, well, as in too much in
C-
favor of Canelo.
compared to what you were seeing, I didn't think that Canelo, because in some rounds they were showing like over 50 or over 60, whereas Smith was below 20, and I don't know.
What
I'm
percent?
not biased or anything. Yeah,
Yeah.
percentages. I don't know. I just didn't feel like that.
I think maybe to a degree as well. What might happen? I think they probably only see it as landing flush, maybe, or
Yeah,
kind of really catching it because Canelo does this thing a lot where he rolls with the punch, and it
hmm
either catches on the shoulder or it doesn't
probably,
really
and yeah, they won't
catch him
count it.
flush.
But
Yeah,
I don't know. The stat seemed odd, and I don't really look into them a lot of the time
yeah, yeah.
because just use stats all the time. It's disaster.
Yeah, you can't judge a fight on stats. That's why it's not for that. But I think it's just interesting to see like how, um, yeah, just really interesting the disparity in it if they were correct. But I thought
Yeah,
something that was interesting is because obviously Canelo didn't respect his power. Early doors he was a bit more reserved, but as the fight went on, I just thought he started stalking him. and then I think it was from rounds 9 to 12, he basically just had Callum Smith on the ropes for about half the rounds, and Callum Smith just taking an absolute beating.
Yeah, he pretty much
Um,
had his way with him in like the first last 4 rounds.
Yeah, 100%. One thing I want to say actually though, that might be a point is Callum Smith. I think maybe the reason why he didn't plant his feet and start throwing more shots and really going for it might have just been because Canelo's defense is that tight. Because you could almost see there were parts of rounds where Canelo and Callum Smith were like looking at each other, trying to see an opening, and I almost felt like Callum Smith was like, I don't really have any openings here, and then what would happen is he'd think to himself, I'm not doing anything, I need activity, and then he'd throw like a jab or something, even though knowing it probably won't catch him, and that might be
Yeah,
why he just wasn't really getting anywhere with it. So it was probably just frustrating, and obviously his upper body movement's so good and head movement that even when you do throw there's an opening, it kind of feels like you feel like half the time you're not really hitting him anyway, or you're not catching him.
I think Callum Smith was very worried about Canelo's body shots. That's one thing that
Yeah,
I noticed. You could just tell that he was always on the lookout for it.
yeah, hundred
And
percent.
to be honest, everyone should because he's
Yeah,
probably got the best body shot in boxing.
yeah. I think Canelo did hurt him a couple of times. I think one was a body shot, one was a right hand which basically hit him with, and he basically fell back onto the ropes.
Yeah,
But then he
yeah.
kind of recovered quite quickly. So as I said, really good chin. But yeah, I mean Canelo just I don't know, just different animal. And as you said, after about I guess 3 rounds, I would say, I just thought to myself, there's a different golfing class here, and kind of
Yeah.
similar to, obviously not as much, but Triple G versus Zero which I watched the day before. I could tell after the first round when he floored him that obviously he's not supposed to he shouldn't be in there basically.
Yeah,
Um,
and another thing, I don't feel like Canelo got went through that many gears either.
yeah, 100%. I think in
He
round
kind of cruised
10,
the fight.
yeah, he did cruise it because I think he realized that maybe he's not going to get Callum Smith out there, but I don't think he was going through the gears as much as he needed to, um,
I
just
think he could
because
have
he
stopped
thought.
him. To be fair,
Do you think maybe,
towards the end, I think he could have stopped him.
maybe
If he
it might?
really
Yeah,
pressed for it, I think he would have stopped him.
it might have been like a standing count ref kind of stopping it when he was on the ropes, maybe
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah, but it was funny.
Maybe not knock him out cold, but I think he
Yeah,
could have
yeah,
stopped him. Like
yeah,
there was, I think in what 11 or 12, they were like talking to each other.
yeah, yeah.
Smith was
Actually,
like
what?
probably like, no more, don't punch me
So,
anymore.
I think Smith basically caught him with because he has that catch left hook where he catches the opponent's left hook with his right hand, and then
Yeah,
basically he throws the left hook basically at the same time. So it's a really really good shot. It's the one that he knocked George Groves out with, and
yeah.
I think he hit Canelo with that, and Canelo just shook his head, and then they both smiled at each other because Callum Smith was just like, yeah, okay, it's not working. Maybe he was thinking to himself, okay, this is not good. But one thing that I thought was quite funny, and I don't know if the DAZN commentators were just, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't like them.
You know what? The Chris Mannix is, I just don't rate him at all. I think and then also in round 10, the main commentator was like, "Oh, do you think they should stop the fight?" And I think an ex-fighter who was another one of the commentators was like, "No, because the champion, like, nothing, he's not super
I
hurt
think
or
it's
anything."
is it Sergio Mora or
Sergio
something?
Mora, yeah, and it was just so bizarre. I was just like, why would he stop it now? Like, it's not like he's been fraud or anything,
Innit?
or anything's happened. Like, yeah, he's getting a bit of a beating, but he's still throwing back. It's not like he's not throwing anything back. Just some really bizarre comments, but they've got Gareth Davis, who's quite good. I think he's good, and he does a lot of interviews as well. And also had Joe Calzaghe, which is good. But yeah, they need to work on it a little bit because some of the commentators are just. It just sounded to me like also one of them said, was like Callum Smith and knocked out Hassan Andam on the undercard of Anthony Joshua and John Ruiz. So I was like, that's wrong.
Yeah,
It's Andy Ruiz.
a lot of people actually do that. Someone else has done that recently as well.
Yeah, I was just like, oh, come on, man. Like, it's really
Just
poor.
poor mistakes.
Yeah, it's just bad. But what did you think of? So Canelo, obviously, as you said, cruised this, and after he said, well, actually, first of all, what would you give that performance out of 10 for Canelo?
Probably a 7 or an 8.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
comfortable. Just did his job. I don't think he needed to do anything special.
yeah. I
Um,
personally, I thought I was a little bit surprised that we didn't see more from Callum Smith because even though, as you
yeah,
said, he hasn't really fought too many like big, as you said, George Groves, really, John Ryder, but these guys are not the elite. I still thought he had the the attributes to be able to cause some issues, but it just wasn't the case. And as we
Yeah.
both said, there was a bit of golf in class, unfortunately. There, Callum Smith said after that, he said, "Look, there's no excuse." But he said maybe, maybe I've outgrown the weight, which I think a lot of people have
To be
said
fair,
before.
I've thought this for like a long time.
Yeah,
He's too big.
but he always is very adamant. He was always adamant for the last couple of years that look, he makes it very easily. But I think he said maybe actually this was one step too far. But obviously, you're never going to turn down a Canelo fight. So
Exactly.
I don't think and
I think he'll move up now, and
yeah.
I think he'll be good at light heavy.
Yeah, I agree. I think at light heavyweight, I mean, imagine as well, at light heavyweight, imagine how many British fighters you'd have, because already got Boatsi, Yard, which obviously that upset with Lyndon Arthur, but you've got Lyndon Arthur now as well. Craig Richards beat Shakam Pitters in the British midweight light heavyweight title Friday. You got Callum Johnson.
Callum Johnson, yeah. That's it.
And so that's already 5 off the top of my head. And that's just, crazy. There's a stacked division. Well, it'll be 6 with Callum Smith. So, I mean, if he moves up, there could be some big fights there. It's a bit of a shame that I don't think we're ever going to see him versus Billy Joe, because I thought that would have been an interesting fight. Just because I think the styles would have been quite interesting to see. But, what do you think in terms of, do you think Canelo's pound for pound now? I think after that.
I thought he was pound for pound before.
Yeah. And what do you think in terms of next fights? Because after he said, "Look, I'm happy to fight whoever," he obviously said before he wants to unify. So I don't know whether GG will be next. GG, I thought looked quite good, to be fair. He didn't. I felt like I don't think he rolled back the years against Zermatta, because it's very difficult to say that when you've got someone like Zermatta who obviously is a nobody. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But the way he fought, I thought was quite good. He looked in really good shape as well. It's like the first time he's ever done strength and conditioning in a camp, which is crazy if you think about it. You just look ripped. But obviously, you've got him. You've got Billy Joe, obviously. I think people will say maybe Charlo, but Charlo's at 160. So unless he moves up, I can't really see. I don't see Canelo moving back down to 160 again. And
he even said that. I don't know if it was after the fight or
he did
in some interviews before. He said 168 is my weight, and I want to get all the belts here before anything.
Yeah, because he said he doesn't want to worry about the scales, basically, which is fair enough. And if you're that good, you don't really need to worry too much, do you? You don't need to think I've got to really cut weight. So, and then I think another really left field option was Errol Spence, which I hope that doesn't happen, because it's just way too big. So what do you think? I think really realistically, it's funny because Eddie Hearn said that Canelo walked past him after the fight, and he said, "That's 3. Who next?" And Eddie Hearn was like, he was referencing obviously who is it? So Callum Smith, Callum Smith and Rocky Fielding, and who's the other one? Someone else, because obviously Liam Smith wasn't with him. It was Daniel Jacobs, of course. Daniel Jacobs, and which I thought that was a good fight. I thought that was quite a close fight.
Quite a few Brits.
Yeah, he has, because he's fought Liam Smith and a couple of others as well. Also Ricky Hatton's brother, Matthew Hatton. So but what do you think? So obviously he was saying, Eddie Hearn was thinking, well, I've got GGG and Billy Joe, so I think he's hinting that he might fight them next. I think the Billy Joe Saunders fight might make sense because he's obviously got belt and he wants to unify. I think he would either go, in my opinion, the ideal scenario is you have Canelo fight Caleb Plant, and then obviously he gets another belt, and then you have GGG fight Billy Joe Saunders. So I think now that GGG has got that record 21st defense at middleweight, I don't think he can just move up now, and then he'll make weight easier as well. And Billy Joe's always wanted that Triple G fight as well as the Canelo fight. And for GGG it's good because if he wins, then he gets a 168 title, so it's kind of great for everyone. And then if GGG was to win, which I don't know if he would, to be fair, against Billy Joe, then you have the trilogy, but it would be for all 4 belts. So it's perfect. What do you think?
I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't want to see Triple G fight Canelo again.
I think it's a mismatch now.
If he didn't win the first fight, he's never going to win. If I'm honest.
And things you can just never see Canelo getting knocked out. That's the issue. And if you've got that good a chin, it's so frustrating though, because GG should have had at least one of the fights. But that's a video for another day. I think it's just.
Yeah, I mean, they will make the third fight, but it's just a spectacle. I don't think it will be competitive to an extent, but
Yeah,
I don't think Triple G will win it. He'd have to stop Canelo, and I can't really see anyone stopping Canelo unless
yeah,
you put like a heavyweight in with him.
yeah. It'd be really
So
disappointing if we see like for GG getting stopped just because he's got older. I hope that really doesn't happen.
yeah, I mean, you were mentioning the matchups, but you could easily have it the other way. So you could have, instead of Canelo fighting Caleb Plant, you could have Canelo fight Billy Joe,
Yeah,
and because what Triple G has the IBF belt, right?
I'm middleweight. Yeah,
So and Caleb Plant is the IBF super middle champ, right?
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So if Triple G was to move up, he becomes his mandatory immediately now, or something like that.
No, that's just WBO, unfortunately.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, WBO have got that weird rule because obviously Usyk, and like loads of champs do it. That's the one perk of being WBO champ. Yeah, I guess your ranking would be in the top 10. I think when you move up,
Yeah,
but you don't automatically become mandatory, which is probably better because it's a bit ridiculous when you move up. You just automatically become mandatory to the
yeah,
champion, which is crazy. But yeah, but I'm sure they can make that fight. It's a bit more difficult because obviously it's Matchroom and PBC, but I think they could make it. But I don't know. I guess they could maybe even make Triple G versus Daniel Jacobs rematch at 168. But again, I don't know whether there's any kind of whether
yeah.
anyone really wants to see that.
I think the next one that everyone wants to see is probably Billy Joe from the UK
Yeah,
anyway.
I would
I'm not
love to
sure.
see Billy
I'm
Joe
not sure what
versus
people from
Canelo
the States would think. I don't
because
know.
you know what you
They'd probably want to see him fight Caleb Plant,
or David Benavidez, wouldn't they?
David
I guess.
Benavidez. Yeah,
Yeah, obviously he lost the WBC belt because he didn't make weight, which is a bit harsh. I thought it was really harsh to be honest with you. So they
yeah.
could.
I didn't even realize until a few days ago that WBC was on the line. Fair enough.
All right, cool. Is there anything else you want to touch on before we wrap up?
Um, I was actually meant to speak to you about Triple G, but yeah, just easy performance. He
Yeah,
looked good.
yeah. I thought he did look good. I thought he looked really good. I just think, as I said, it's just very tough when he fights someone like Zerameta. But
Yeah,
look, he did his
it was
job.
just
And
for me. It was just good to see him back.
yeah, one thing I would say is that his head movement I thought was a bit better than because normally he takes shots, but obviously the class, the golfing class is there. But I just felt like he was trying to at least move his head more. And obviously, I think he said not being in Big Bear for long periods has helped him. So okay, well, yeah, if that's all, then thank you very much for being on Musharraf as well. And
No
let's see.
worries.
Hopefully, we see. I really want to see Canelo versus Billy Joe. So I'm
I
hoping that
think it's the
happens.
one. They have
It
to
is,
now.
it is. And finally, we'll be able to see whether Billy Joe's good enough. We found that Callum Smith's not fair enough. Let's see if Billy
That's
Joe
what we
is.
want to see.
Yeah, man.
If like the top fighters are elite. That's it.
Exactly, yeah. Especially in the UK. Cool. Guys, thank you very much for watching. If you haven't already, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And of course, share the vids as well. I think the next big fight, Ryan Garcia versus Luke Campbell, which is after the new year, I think.
The Zone 199.
$199 a month, as Kugan Cassius says on IFL TV all the time now. He's obviously being paid to do the ads, and Ben Davison. But yeah, $199 is a bargain. To be fair,
Swipe up.
I'll do it. Swipe up, yeah, exactly. There's no swipe up here, but yeah. Anyway, yeah, stay safe, guys. Thanks.